This hour of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by my good friends at Advantage Gold. Advantage Gold is a 5-star rated gold company with one-of-a-kind customer service. And when it comes to gold and precious metals, Advantage Gold is the only company I'll work with. Call Advantage Gold today and make sure you let them know that Mark Levin sent you. And now, let's begin.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Jesus, giving the Medal of Freedom to John Kerry, Nancy Pelosi, all these Democrat Party hacks. Let me explain something to Stalinist Bernie Sanders, Marxist, Soros Marxist, Blinken, and all the rest of them. All this Biden trying to appease the Hitler youth, the Islamist terrorists among us, and the Marxists is going to backfire. Americans love their country. Americans love their country. And they're disgusted by what they're seeing on TV with their colleges and universities. Americans despise the Palestinian terrorists, the Arab terrorists. We know from experience what they're capable of throughout our history, and on 9/11 in particular. We understand that the Israelis share our common bond. The Islamists do not. We understand that Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, where their homeland was, where they are buried. We understand where Jesus was born and where he walked and where he was murdered by the Romans, like so many other Jews, by the way. The idea that Palestinians, that were Arab Bedouins who renamed themselves Palestinians, not only have a right to these areas, but have a right to kill people, to slaughter people, to demand that the Jews in Israel be exterminated, that Americans be exterminated right here in America, where they're taking down our flags and putting up Palestinian flags. Americans aren't going to put up with this crap. I think a whole lot of us have had enough of this. We're tired of paying for the brainwashing of our kids, the future generation. We're tired of the teachers' unions. We're tired of the Marxist Islamist faculties and administrators. We're tired of their books filled with hate and filth. We're tired of the media, which I'll get to later, that promotes this agenda, this hate America fundamental transformation agenda. We're tired of Joe Biden, who's given nothing to this country, who's gotten rich and powerful as a result of politics. We're tired of it. We're tired of these numbskulls destroying our economic system. We're tired of them destroying the value of our dollar, our pensions, our Social Security, our savings accounts, our paychecks. We're sick of it. We're tired of the high interest rates where our kids and grandkids can't purchase homes. And the credit cards and the double-digit interest rates on cards. We're tired of going to our grocery stores, our eyes popping out of our heads at prices, or even the drive-thrus, the fast food drive-thrus. We're tired of Biden driving up the price of electricity and oil and gasoline, heating and air conditioning. We're sick of it. We're sick of Biden and his administrators telling us what kind of car we can buy, what kind of dishwasher, washing machine, dryer, what kind of ceiling fan, what kind of lawnmower, what kind of leaf blower. Who the hell do these people think they are? We're sick and tired of them telling us where we can and cannot live, what kind of house we can build. We're tired of their American hatred. We're tired of their Jew hatred. We're tired of the redistribution of wealth from hardworking taxpayers, plumbers, electricians, truck drivers, construction workers, to Ivy League school students with student forgiveness, loan forgiveness, without our permission and in violation of the Constitution and a Supreme Court order. We're sick of it. We're sick of a wide open border that allows 11 million foreigners to come into this country. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We're sick of it. The fentanyl, the drugs, the sex slavery, the child pornography. Sick of it. We've had enough. We've had enough. Inflation's not going away. It's going to get worse. The value of the dollar is shrinking because they won't stop printing money. They won't stop spending money. And not on you, on climate change. We're going to wake up one day to brownouts and blackouts like they've had in California. We're going to wake up one day and, in the best interest of the country, of course, like the pandemic, you can drive on this day and not that day. You can fill up your car on this day and not that day. And it'll get worse. They'll monitor how many miles you're driving, how big your house can be, how many automobiles you can have, how far you can drive on any given day. It's right there. It's in your future. Look at it. There it is. Biden's already talking about a massive increase in the capital gains tax. But don't worry, it only affects the rich. How many of you own homes? Well, in the end of that process, when you sell it, you're hit with a capital gains tax. He's a liar. He's funded by billionaires. He's funded by Soros. He's funded by American-hating dark money. He's funded by foreign governments. His brother was doing business with Qatar. His son was all over the globe doing business with our enemies. And we're supposed to pretend it didn't happen. We're supposed to pretend Joe didn't know a damn thing about any of it. His family is up to their eyeballs, but nobody ever said anything to Joe. We're sick of it, all of it. We're sick of the Biden family, and we're sick of him. The lies about his mental state. He's a humiliation. Shuffles around, can't get his sentence straight, can't remember. He's on stage 5 of 7-stage dementia. We all know it. And Dr. Jill, she defends him. She likes being First Lady. She likes getting on Air Force One. She likes be calling the First Lady. She loves it. So the rest of us suffer. We watch as Joe Biden single-handedly is trying to destroy our ally, Israel, as he has funded the Islamo-Nazi regime in Tehran, which in turn has funded terrorists all over the world, including those surrounding Israel and those coming across our border. He's funding Iran, which in turn is funding China with the sale of oil. He's funding Iran, which in turn is giving drone technology to the Russians to murder the Ukrainians. And where are the Americans that were left in Afghanistan? They don't even talk about them. Why is that? Joe Biden is an evil, diabolical, incredibly stupid man. He tells you to worry about Donald Trump. He's going to be a dictator, a racist, an anti-Semite. What's funny is that describes Joe Biden in every respect. Joe Biden, racist, segregationist. The record is clear. It's unequivocal. Joe Biden, the anti-Semite, blackmailing Menachem Begin, blackmailing Netanyahu, targeting Israel like he doesn't target any other country on the face of the earth. He's an anti-Semite, just like his buddy Obama. No question about it. I don't care what the Islamist Hitler youth have to say in their universities in Dearbornistan. I don't do my own thinking through their hate and their cancerous poison. It's obvious to anybody who opens their eyes. We're sick of this guy. In this effort to put Donald Trump in prison, this disgusting, pathetic, sickening case in Manhattan, this disgusting, pathetic, sickening judge, this disgusting, pathetic so-called prosecutor, and their disgusting, pathetic so-called media, which you hate. 8 out of 10 Americans despise the media in this country. Well, of course you do. They're lying SOBs who've destroyed freedom of the press in our country, who give us lies and propaganda each and every day. They get their data from Hamas. They get their positions from Marxists. They love a Stalinist by the name of Bernie Sanders. And they love Jew haters like Tlaib and Omar and AOC. And every stinking, rotten, America-hating politician, they're on the conga line on these Sunday shows, one after another. We are sick and tired of Joe Biden. We're sick and tired of his damnable party and his damnable media. We're sick and tired of his damnable students and faculty and administrators. Sick up to here. The greatest country on the face of the earth. Look at all the people who've died to preserve this country. So these pukes, these Jew haters, these America haters, can destroy it with a couple of elections? Is that what we've become in this country? We don't teach anymore the truth about the Revolutionary War, the truth about the Civil War. We don't teach anymore the truth about World War I, the truth about World War II and subsequent wars. No. We brainwash our children to hate our country, hate our military, and hate our cops. I've had it up to here. And their abuse of our children, which is a mainstay now of the Democrat Party ideology. The sexualization of our children. The sexualization of 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7 years old. The pornography that's in our school libraries. You challenge it, and Joe Biden says, oh, you're book burning. That stupid bastard. What's the last book that he's ever read? The culture's been unraveled. Our morals are being burned to a crisp. Our institutions have been taken over. I'd say we've had enough. And you see what's going on in the streets, ladies and gentlemen. You see what's taking place. That's Joe Biden. Joe Biden's America. He talks about the First Amendment. The First Amendment? He didn't talk about the First Amendment when his Attorney General issued a memo threatening parents with every lever of power at the Department of Justice. He didn't mention the First Amendment when his FBI is using SWAT teams and his marshals are using SWAT teams to throw little old ladies in prison for daring to peacefully protest in front of their sacred abortion facilities. First Amendment, the same administration, where every department and agency in this administration monitors the American people, works over social media platforms to censor what they don't like and promote what they do? You mean the administration that set up a disinformation board, a government disinformation board? That administration that cares about the First Amendment? You mean the Democrats who applaud the gag rules on Donald Trump? Don't hand me this crap that they support the First Amendment. They hate the Constitution. They hate the framers. They hate the Bill of Rights. These are Marxist Islamists. They don't believe in any of it. And we have had enough. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Our once mighty dollars under siege from runaway inflation. For those still working, your paychecks buy less while costs for gas, food, cars, utilities skyrocket thanks to inflation. That's why I'm urging all my listeners to register for the upcoming Gold and Silver Summit hosted by our friends at Advantage Gold. It's a fantastic seminar. They'll teach you how to take steps to help guard your wealth from inflation using asset diversification into physical precious metals. Gold and silver hold intrinsic value that should remain untouched by government manipulation. Folks, don't wait for the Fed's reckless policies to completely devalue the dollar and steal your life savings. Call now while free registration is open. I'm telling you, this is a fantastic seminar. Call 800-900-8000 right now. The Gold and Silver Summit could provide the vital insights we need to protect our families. 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Always consult your financial and tax professionals. I'm going to address, after the bottom of the hour, the clown show of the left and the so-called conservatives who think they know the First Amendment. They have no idea what they're talking about. They don't even know where the First Amendment came from. You people spewing stupidity to you day in and day out. Day in and day out. And it's like a group of them. The hardcore left and the so-called, I don't know what they call themselves. They've abandoned traditional constitutional conservatism the way the Marxists rewrite history every day. I'm going to straighten some things out. I started last night. I'll do it today on an act that passed the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, and I'm happy to debate anybody in the media, in Congress on this subject. But first, the foundation. I'll be back. Attention, fellow Americans. Mark Levin here with a warning and a solution. I feel like our country's being destroyed by out-of-control spending and debt thanks to Biden and the American Marxists. And your hard-earned savings and retirement could be at risk from their socialist schemes. That's why you should consider Advantage Gold, the best of the best, a U.S.-based company that specializes in helping everyday Americans protect their wealth. They have a simple solution to help you even potentially grow your wealth despite the attacks from Washington. I urge you to register for their upcoming Gold and Silver Summit. It's fabulous. A free online event where you'll learn tips to help safeguard your finances by diversifying into physical precious metals. Call 800-900-8000. Call them right now to sign up securely for this pivotal summit. It is crucial. Tell them Mark Levin sent you for a special bonus. Call 800-900-8000 right now. Performance may vary. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
This is the nation's town hall meeting, and you can join in at 877-381-3811.
All right, brothers and sisters, it's time to put on our hats like students. Mark Levin University is open. Mark Levin Constitutional Law School is open. I will start with this. There's a great piece at National Review by David Bernstein. This is a fairly renowned lawyer. I believe he's a law professor. Either way, he says many critics are displaying a combination of ignorance and mendacity, often with a significant dollop of anti-Jewish conspiracy theory. Some on both the left and right have been up in arms about the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, AAA, passed by the House of Representatives, which may get taken up by the Senate. Those on the left and some on the right argue that it'll make criticizing Israel illegal. Others on the right claim it will outlaw Christianity. Tucker Carlson, for example, tweeted that it will make the New Testament illegal. More reasonable critics worry about a possible chilling effect. All are mistaken about the bill. In fact, the bill, if it becomes law, will not change the status quo. Will not change the status quo. Leftists who are currently accusing Israel of genocide or comparing Israelis to Nazis will be able to continue to do so. Some Christians will continue to have access to the New Testament, that is, Christians will, rather, and preach Christianity, even the versions that hold Jews collectively responsible for Jesus' crucifixion. We see some of those online, like Matt Gaetz and Green. So what does the bill actually do? First, it ensures that Jewish students have statutory protection from discrimination based on ethnicity. Title VI, the existing Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, passed in 1964, prohibits discrimination of many kinds by federally funded institutions, but not discrimination on the basis of religion. Religion was excluded to protect religious colleges from complaints. So for the first 39 years of the Civil Rights Act, the Department of Education's position was that Jews, being a religious group, were not protected by Title VI. In 2003, the Bush administration issued guidance stipulating that while Jews are not protected from discrimination, if the discrimination is based on hostility to Jews as a religious group, they are protected from discrimination based on their Jewish ethnicity and origins. That guidance has been reaffirmed by the Obama, Trump, and Biden administrations, and so it's codified with this law. The part of the bill has not been controversial, that part of the bill, though it's the most important part. The part that has animated critics and attracted a huge amount of rhetorical excess is the bill's codification of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's IHRA working definition. That definition gives examples of statements that, depending on the context, could be anti-Semitic. Left-wing ire is raised by examples of criticism of Israel that could, in context, be anti-Semitic. Perhaps the most controversial are applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation, and denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, for example, by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor. Lara Friedman of the Foundation for Middle East Peace interprets these examples at the conflation of criticism, protest of Israel Zionism with anti-Semitism, so as to censor speech that doesn't align with unconditional support for Israel. That's the left. So-called right-wing ire is raised by the example of using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, that is, claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel, to characterize Israel as Israelis. This is what led Carlson to claim that the bill would ban the New Testament. Meanwhile, some civil libertarians who should know better, such as Reason's Robbie Schwab, expressed the more general concern that the law would criminalize offensive speech. Let's start with the easiest and most obvious corrective. The bill has nothing to do with criminal law, does not ban anything, and thus does not criminalize speech. As for the argument that the bill is somehow making preaching Christianity, the doctrine of Christianity, illegal, the only relevance, hold on one second, with the IHRA definition has to Christianity as the example noted above, that using classic anti-Semitic tropes derived from Christian polemic to criticize Israel actions can in context be anti-Semitic. It's hard to imagine anyone sensible arguing that, for example, the statement, of course Israel's massacring Palestinians. That's exactly what Christ killers would do. Can't be anti-Semitic. Regardless, and here we get into more technical legal analysis, the bill does not make anti-Semitic speech of any sort illegal, as so many are claiming. Not under criminal law, not under civil law. Rather, as the bill states, quote, in reviewing, investigating, or deciding whether there's been a violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act in 1964 on the basis of race, color, and national origin, based on an individual's actual or perceived shared Jewish ancestry or Jewish ethnic characteristics, the Department of Education shall take into consideration the era definition of anti-Semitism as part of its assessment of whether the practice was motivated by anti-Semitic intent. So imagine, for example, that Assistant Dean Smith of the Office of Student Life is in charge of room assignments for school events. The campus Hillel tries to schedule 6 different events. Each time, Dean Smith tells the group that no room is available. Hillel files a Title VI complaint. The university responds that Dean Smith says that it was just a run of bad luck on Hillel's part. There was not intent to discriminate against the campus Jewish group. Imagine, however, that each time Smith sent an email to Hillel denying a room assignment, he added to his normal email signature the line, Zionism is racism. Would any sensible person deny that this is evidence, subject to counter evidence, of course, that denial of room assignments was not just bad luck? Some of the more sober critics of the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, including the ACLU, when it's being sober, acknowledge these points, but point to the chilling effect adaptation of the definition might have on campus speech. They especially point to the possibility that speech hostile to Israel, of the sort mentioned in the IHRA definition, speech would otherwise be protected by the First Amendment, could be used as evidence in a hostile environment claim. University officials, who therefore would be inclined to proactively clamp down on such speech. Well, that is indeed a real concern, but that's a problem with hostile environment law more generally. That is, not just as applies to Jews, but blacks and lesbians and so forth and so on, is his point. So he says, in practice, though, they mostly use Title VI as an excuse to try to censor speech that offends woke sensibilities. Woke sensibilities. That, in fact, is the broader reason wokesters are hostile to the Anti-Discrimination Awareness Act. Currently, there is a double standard, with anti-Semitic speech that might contribute to a hostile environment treated with much more equanimity than speech hostile to other groups. But this is illegal discrimination against Jewish students, and it is essential to the entire speech hostile to other groups. This is illegal, central to the entire DEI edifice. If the law and other new laws incentivize universities to treat members of all protected classes, including white students discriminated against based on race, equally, then the whole ideological structure of DEI as we know it, which depends on preferences for favored groups, collapses. He's saying this should be applied to white people, to Jews, to all groups. It says a final note, as the law notes in its text, the Department of Education has been using the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism since 2018, as President Donald Trump also issued an executive order making that definition applicable to government-wide. Over 30 states and dozens of localities have adopted the definition. Criticism of Israel is still legal, as is, of course, reading and preaching the New Testament. those who claim that the limited adoption of this definition for evidentiary purposes only in Title VI and those proceedings, well, it's a big step on the road to authoritarian dystopia, are displaying a combination of ignorance and mendacity, often with a significant dollop of anti-Jewish conspiracy theory. Now, you don't have to believe Bernstein. There's a gentleman by the name of Paul Clement. To the best of my knowledge, Paul Clement has argued more cases in front of the United States Supreme Court for the conservative constitutional cause than any individual, period. If he hasn't, he's certainly up there. And he wrote a letter to every member of Congress, your member of Congress, a detailed 8-page letter explaining how this law is in fact constitutional, how in fact Title VI is not being changed, it's just being codified to include Jewish students. It includes black students, Hispanic students, gay students, all kinds of students. Says while efforts by public universities to directly regulate student speech do raise serious First Amendment issues, the act is fundamentally different, and concerns about its constitutionality are misplaced for multiple reasons. First, the act includes a savings clause that ensures the act will be implemented consistently with the First Amendment. In other words, if you read the act, which I have, or the bill that passed in the House, it makes it clear that the compliance or interpretation of this act must comply with the First Amendment. Second, the act adds a definition to an existing law that addresses conduct, not speech, conduct. Title VI already has been interpreted to charge universities with prohibiting harassment on a number of forbidden bases, including anti-Semitism. That charge is compatible with the commands of the Supreme Court's First Amendment jurisprudence because it does not license universities to prohibit any speech, but only to reach certain conduct that rises to a level of harassment when it is undertaken on a forbidden basis, such as racism or anti-Semitism. Now, Professor Bernstein explained this. So if you say, you Jews are pigs, God forbid, that's protected speech. If you hit somebody over the head and say, you Jews are pigs, that's not protected speech. If you say, this class must not be taken because you're a Jewish pig, that's forbidden speech because it also applies to conduct. Do you understand what I'm saying, Mr. Producer? Supreme Court precedent allows the government to police such conduct and to consider speech as evidence of a forbidden intent. And it distinguishes the evidentiary use of speech from direct prohibitions on the speech itself. I think the examples I've given, Bernstein have given, are quite clear that even a member of Congress should be able to comprehend it, or a talk show host or a television host. The Act builds on this existing law and its distinctions. Third, the Act simply adds a definition of anti-Semitism to existing law. Existing law prohibits harassment motivated by anti-Semitism without providing, without providing education department officials or university officials with a workable definition of anti-Semitism. It is hard to see how providing these officials with such a definition would create a First Amendment problem. Now, you've probably heard hosts actually read from the bill, but you haven't heard them explaining it, have you? That the language in and of itself is free speech. But if the language is used to block people from going to class, to intimidate people so they can't function on the college campus, to do things that we all know can be done, that's action. That's different. It's language in conjunction with action. To the contrary, defining this critical term by statute advances First Amendment values by providing clarity and ensuring that the definition of this term does not vary from official to official or from administration to administration. And he provides quite significant content and context. The Senate unanimously passed the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act on December 1, 2016. But the bill stalled in the House of Representatives based at least on part on suggestion that the act is unconstitutional. We still have boneheads in the House doing the same thing. 21 Republicans voted against this. They don't even know what the hell they're voting on. Opponents of the bill have suggested the act is unconstitutional because it improperly regulates campus speech against Israel, because its definition of anti-Semitism is too vague. These constitutional objections to the act are misplaced. And he explains why in great detail, and your members of Congress have received, including the 21 boneheads. Oh, I understand why Tlaib votes against this. She's a pig. But if people are going to prance around or parade around as constitutionalists, they really need to figure out what that means and understand the precedent, the Supreme Court precedent, exactly what this law means, exactly how it will be applied under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
My fellow Americans, we're living in very perilous economic times. Washington seems determined to bankrupt our nation with endless stimulus spending. As they devalue our dollar, hard-working Americans like you could lose everything. That's why I urge you strongly, register for the upcoming Gold and Silver Summit hosted by our friends at Advantage Gold. They'll teach you how to help guard your wealth using asset diversification into physical precious metals. Gold and silver can offer a defense against the dollar's devaluation, and the experts at Advantage Gold will explain how you can convert some of your savings into precious metals that can protect and potentially grow your wealth. With currency debasement from Washington and global uncertainty on the rise, gold and silver diversification could offer you some stability. Call 800-900-8000 right now to sign up. 800-900-8000 now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Pastor John Hagee, really a great man. I consider him my pastor. Ralph Reed, chairman of Faith and Freedom Coalition, good man. I'm sure you've heard of him. He put out a statement. We and our members welcome President Trump's 2019 executive order combating anti-Semitism. We are grateful the Biden administration sustained that order. Finally, after 8 years of debate, the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act of 2023, which largely codifies President Trump's executive order, was passed by the House on May 1. To the biblically literate, claims that the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act is anti-Christian are so insulting as they are injurious. Speaking about the Jewish people, Jesus said, "Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Matthew 23:40. And just as biblical literacy is a necessary precondition to defending Christianity, so too is literacy of the law. The House's debate over the bill exemplifies the need for this legislation. As it is clear, the world's oldest hatred is alive and well on both fringes of the partisan divide. Likewise, as American colleges are taken over by hordes of pro-Hamas demonstrators claiming their genocidal ambitions are merely anti-Israel, this legislation is timelier than ever. What the opposition to this legislation is choosing is to ignore is that the law is about preventing unlawful action, not speech. For the law to apply, what an individual would have to have an unlawful act committed against them first, and only thereafter would the definition of anti-Semitism be considered in order to determine whether or not the underlying unlawful act was motivated by anti-Semitism. This definition and its example is arguably used for guidance because, as we have recently seen across American college campuses, you cannot defeat what you are unwilling to define. Pastor John Hagee, National Chairman, Christians United for Israel. Ralph Reed, Chairman, Faith and Freedom Coalition. Maybe Tucker Carlson will try and read these things and better understand them. Others, Matt Gaetz, MTG, other with their disgusting blood libels. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. The media is not talking much about the jobs report, is it, Mr. Producer? Bidenomics. What happened to that word? Spencer Brown over at Town Hall. The U.S. economy added 175,000 jobs in April, according to the latest employment situation report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, released this morning. That's the smallest job gain in some 6 months and significantly below Wall Street estimates for the month. It was expected that April would bring 240,000 to 250,000 new jobs, and the unemployment rate would remain at 3.8%. Instead, April was a big miss, and unemployment ticked up to 3.9%. The labor force participation rate remained at 62.7% in April. The average work week slipped down to 34.3 hours, while average hourly wages rose 0.2% for a 12-month increase of 3.9%. The problem is inflation is greater than that when it comes to food, utility bills, filling up your car, buying the necessities, you know, what we call necessities so you can live. Comparing wage growth with inflation, the Consumer Price Index showed core inflation was still running at an annualized 3.8%, meaning Americans' wages are barely keeping up with the still rising costs. It's actually worse than that. Inflation is devaluing the dollar. The price of goods are going up. It's not good enough to have flat wages. You've got to make more money to keep up, just to run in place. So, as has become the norm, April's jobs print revised down the previous 2 months, reported job gains by 22,000, payroll employment increases of 175,000 in April, unemployment rates 3.9%. It's yet another indicator that the economy is slowing, even while inflation continues. I've been warning about this for years. I said, first we're going to get inflation. Then we're going to get stagflation. Then, God forbid, we get deflation. And what follows deflation is a massive depression. They keep spending. They keep borrowing. They won't stop. They keep attacking the golden goose in the energy industry, the golden goose on our assembly lines, our other industries. They keep bringing in millions of people who are getting paid under the table to take American jobs. This can't keep up without a collapse, ladies and gentlemen. It cannot. Today's report confirms the economy is re-entering stagflation, said Alfredo Ortiz, CEO of Job Creators Network. Stagflation. I wrote a book called Plunder and Deceit. You ought to check it out. More than 500,000, maybe 600,000 of you purchased a copy. Several years old, but points out that this is where we're heading. And now we're here. So you can see the power of the police state is getting bigger. The power of the bureaucracy to push us around is getting bigger. The power of federal law enforcement is getting bigger. Your freedom is shrinking every day. Your economic condition is getting worse every day. Joe Biden wants to massively increase taxes, the tax on the sale of your home. They want to control your appliances. They're reaching into your bedroom, into your kitchen, into your basement, into your attic, telling you what you can and cannot do. I'm telling you. This is where we are. Where we are. That's the jobs report. Biden didn't say crap about it. The media are very quiet about it. But don't worry, Biden's got other ideas. He wants to import Palestinians from Gaza. And not just a few, a lot. That's right. What's going on in our streets and our colleges and universities? More of it. You're going to import individuals who've been acculturated by Hamas into the United States. Rich Lowry has a great piece. Don't become Sweden at the National Review. All of you hardworking Americans, this is what's being done to us. Without your say-so, without your support. We're not a representative republic anymore. We're not a federal republic. We're not a constitutional republic. I don't know what the hell we are, but we're not a republic. This is a post-constitutional period. We've been here for a while. Now it's getting worse. Much worse. As this man is so desperate to hold on to power, he wants to put Donald Trump in prison. So does his party with their DAs and their AGs and their special this and that. And Joe Biden has just ruled that illegal immigrants are eligible for Obamacare. Did you see that one today, Mr. Producer? Obamacare. You are going to pay for illegal aliens to get health care now. Joe Biden just snapped his fingers, and that's what's going to happen. This whole thing about open borders is exactly as I've always said, to import future Democrats, to change the makeup of the country. And you're called, oh, listen to him. Listen to Levin with his replacement theory. It's no theory. He's doing it. Why else is the border open? There's no other reason. None. And I won't be intimidated to shut up about it either. According to CBS News, writes Lowry, one proposal the Biden administration is considering is using the decades-old United States Refugee Admissions Program to welcome Palestinians with U.S. ties who have managed to escape Gaza, I'm quoting, and enter neighboring Egypt. Another possibility is getting additional Palestinians out of Gaza and processing them as refugees if they have American relatives. I'm sure we'll bring Talib's entire family into the country, Mr. Producer. So they can contribute just like she does. Who knows how serious the internal deliberations are, and presumably any such program will be small scale, says Lowry. I doubt it. That said, few would have thought President Biden would allow millions of people to walk into the country over the southern border, but here we are. The response to any consideration of letting Gazan refugees into the country, in any numbers, should be, don't become Sweden. That admonition from conservatives once was exclusively about the risks of adopting an overweening welfare state. Now, it also has to be about the perils of adopting a needlessly open-handed, self-congratulatory immigration policy. If the Biden administration thinks it can send a message to the rest of the world, perhaps the Dearborn, about our admirable liberality by accepting large numbers of people from the Middle East who don't share our values, Sweden has been there and done that. The Scandinavian country has managed to transform itself from an overwhelmingly peaceful society to one with a gangland violence problem without really trying, or certainly without intending to. To conjure an image of contemporary Sweden, think less IKEA and more bombs blowing up outside fashionable Stockholm restaurants. Sweden welcomed more than 150,000 refugees from the broader Middle East in 2015, an act its leaders framed as a moral triumph. Given the country's population of roughly 10 million, this was a big, big number. Almost like 11 million in 2.5 years under Biden, you know. In about 2 decades, Sweden decided to go from a largely homogeneous society to 20% of the population being foreign-born, in part as an exercise in virtue signaling. And by the way, the percentages among young people are even much higher. In 2015, the Prime Minister, Stefan Löfven, couldn't have been more puffed up and morally self-important about the decision to take migrants en masse. Quote, "My Europe takes in refugees," he intoned. "My Europe doesn't build walls." Now, your Europe creates concentration camps, but that's a whole other story. His Europe was incredibly short-sighted and naive, writes Lowry. The country assumed the poorly educated people from an entirely different culture would fit right into the Scandinavian nation. Because, you know, Sweden is Sweden. What could go wrong? As James Traub in Foreign Policy magazine notes, this decision was very costly. Sweden spent more than 5% of its overall budget on refugees in 2016. I'm reading this to you, not because I enjoy reading it to you, but because Biden is doing this to us. And how the hell anybody who cares about their family, their jobs, their children, cares about this country can vote for this man is beyond my comprehension. Put aside your stupid Democrat Party belief system. Stand up for your country. And more importantly, it has created social problems where there were none before, at least not on this scale. Sweden, in effect, seeded its country with the equivalent of the Paris suburbs. Stefan Hudnan writes of the emergence of neighborhoods where almost all residents are immigrants, where unemployment rates are very high, and where the children of immigrants go to schools where no other children, others, often not even teachers, are proficient in Swedish. Wow. With this, inevitably has come disorder. Fatal shootings have doubled over the last 30 years on a per capita basis. Stockholm has 30 times the gun violence of London, according to the Wall Street Journal. Only Albania has a higher rate of gun deaths among sizable European countries. Well, this is a reason for immigration control rather than gun control, wouldn't you say, America? If the shooting incidents aren't bad enough, the hand grenades and bombs are particularly hard to ignore. The Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson has said Sweden has never before seen anything like this. No other country in Europe is seeing anything like this. Suicide, national suicide, and we're in the middle of it right now, thanks to the demented old fool in the Oval Office. The Wall Street Journal reports it cites turf wars for control of the drug trade, driven by an influx of guns, personal vendettas, and a pool of available youths, many from marginalized migrant communities. Young migrants are indeed heavily involved. About 45% of suspects in gun-related murder and manslaughter charges are aged 15 to 20, according to The Guardian. That's an increase from 23.6% in 2012. Meanwhile, overall youthful offending has declined just a little bit. Now, the background of the prominent gang leader, Raul Majid, is telling. Referred to as the Scandinavian Pablo Escobar by one expert, he was brought to Sweden as an infant by parents from Iraqi Kurdistan and assimilated into a life of crime thanks to his cousins. The chief of Sweden's central bank has warned that the violence could harden the country's long-term economic prospects. And across the political spectrum, everyone has hated the idea of walls a decade ago, now supports a much more restrictive approach to immigration, as well as tough on crime policies. Well, it's too late, isn't it, America? If Biden wants to even further shift to the right on immigration and the U.S. admitting Gazan refugees would do it. There's simply no reason to go out of our way to take refugees from the most dysfunctional culture in the Middle East, shot through with political and religious radicalism, and support for a terror group. 87% of the so-called civilian population in Gaza supports Hamas. 87%. If I were to write a book on how to destroy America, I could do it very easily. Just take every damn policy Joe Biden is instituting and list them. It's especially make no sense to pluck them out of Egypt, the country right next door to Gaza with a similar culture and values. Many Gazans, after all, ultimately come from Egypt. Of course, we'd be told that all the prospective refugees are the most pro-American, philo-Semitic people in all of Gaza. As a practical matter, though, they'd only be checked for terrorist connections. Well, there's no effective mechanism for screening for their social and political attitudes. Given how refugees ramify, accepting any significant number will be a choice to create a Gazan diaspora in the United States. Refugees are rapidly eligible for green cards and citizenship, and it can short order bring in family members in the classic dynamic of chain migration. We shouldn't go there, and if we have any doubt about that, we should look to Scandinavia. Sweden has indeed created an example for the world, just not the one it expected to. Chain migration. 1,000's 10,000, 10,000's 100,000. If we don't get these dumb bastards out of office, it's over. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Nowadays, $20 barely gets you a burger and fries and maybe a quarter tank of gasoline. You know what it will get you, though? For just $20 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and plenty of 5G data from my cell phone company, Pure Talk. You'll get the same quality of service as AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile, but for half the cost. The average family saves almost $1,000 a year, all with no contracts and no activation fees. You can trade your phone or get great deals on the latest iPhones and Androids. Make the switch today and save an additional 50% off your first month. Choose a wireless company that shares our values, that supports our military and veterans, that creates American jobs, and refuses to advertise on fake news networks. Instead, they're right here with us. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and make the switch right now so you can actually afford that burger and fries. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Levin. What Joe Biden is doing to this country may be irreversible. I'm being honest with you. But I can assure you 4 more years of this, it's over. It will be irreversible. I'm not trying to upset people. I'm trying to make it very clear. I'm telling you what I believe, what I see, what I know. We've reached a point of no return. If he's reelected, we've reached a point of no return. Well, you tell me how we return. He's bringing Palestinians from Gaza into this country, 87% of whom supported Hamas, and then chain migration follows. He's putting them on path to citizenship. With a magic wand, he just, within the last 36 hours, expanded Obamacare. You pay for Obamacare, America, to cover DACA illegal aliens. He doesn't treat American citizens this way, does he? Doesn't treat you right. He's driving up your costs. He's limiting the availability of products. So sick. I'll be right back. Nowadays, $20 barely gets you a burger and fries and maybe a quarter tank of gasoline. You know what it will get you, though? For just $20 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and plenty of 5G data from my cell phone company, Pure Talk. You'll get the same quality of service as AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile, but for half the cost. The average family saves almost $1,000 a year, all with no contracts and no activation fees. You can trade your phone or get great deals on the latest iPhones and Androids. Make the switch today and save an additional 50% off your first month. Choose a wireless company that shares our values, that supports our military and veterans, that creates American jobs, and refuses to advertise on fake news networks. Instead, they're right here with us. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and make the switch right now so you can actually afford that burger and fries. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Levin.
Do you ever talk back to your radio? Then you must be listening to Mark Levin. Pick up the phone and call 877-381-3811.
You know, America, we have a little test here. We have 14.5 million listeners on this program every week. It is massive. On every imaginable communications platform. AM, FM radio, satellite, podcast. We're on YouTube. We have our apps, Mark Levin app. We have the iHeart app. We have streaming. You name it, that's where we are. And so I have a little, a little rule here. Considering you're the heart and soul of the conservative movement on this program, you are. The Tea Party simultaneously grew out of this program and my book and in our neighborhoods and communities. And so much else that we do in this program. Not TV, not digital, this program, this radio show. If there's somebody who claims to be a conservative and won't come on this program, then my advice to President Trump is do not choose them as your running mate. If they're not willing to come on this program and talk to me and I speak to them on your behalf, don't you agree, Mr. Producer? That's a telltale sign that they have a problem with you. Millions and millions and millions of you. So I'm looking at this list that's under consideration. There's at least one senator on there who won't come on the show. I cannot support this individual. There may be others. I haven't seen the whole list. And we'll communicate that. Now, I don't know if that has any effect or not. That's not the point. The point is that's a telltale sign. If there's somebody who wants to be vice president of the United States, who claims to be a constitutional conservative, and they won't talk to you, they should be itching to talk to you. They should be begging to talk to you. And I can't support them. Yes, I'll support Trump, whatever may come. Period. But I'll be supporting him for him, not Trump and fill in the blank. You get my point. Because I have found this over the decades here. I guess we're going into 22 years soon, aren't we, Mr. Producer? That if people do not want to come onto this show because they don't want to answer the tough questions, and I'm very respectful to politicians who come on this program. I very much am. But I don't roll over. Then they're not good enough for you. If they're willing to go everywhere else, they're willing to go on CNN and meet the press and all these other face the nation, but they're afraid of you, no way. That is a bad sign. They come here when they want my support. They come here when they want my endorsement. They come here when they have a book. But if they don't want to come here to talk to you, then they're disrespecting you. Remember what I said? Remember Rush told me, never disrespect your audience. And I never have and I never will. So I'm not going to say we should support so-and-so who disrespects you. It's not going to happen. So we'll see. They're having a little conga line at Mar-a-Lago apparently this weekend. That's what I read. What do I know? So we'll see. Our buddy Joe Pollack at Breitbart. He's very, very sharp, Joel. He's a good man. And he has a great point here. Pro-Palestinian activists in our country are committing the crime that Donald Trump is accused of. Conspiracy against rights. This is the Ku Klux Klan Act. You ready for this? Pro-Palestinian activists are arguably committing the crime of conspiracy against rights in their nationwide encampments at universities. But they're not being charged by the Department of Justice. Of course not. Instead, the DOJ is charging former President Trump with that same crime over his alleged role in the Capitol riot, of which he had none. The DOJ is ignoring an actual conspiracy to violate the civil rights of Jews while chasing a political prosecution. As Breitbart News noted last year, Special Counsel Smith brought 4 charges. Now, the language of the statute with respect to the Klan Act says if 2 or more persons conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district, in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of the United States, or because of his having to so exercise the same, or if 2 or more persons go in disguise on the highway or on the premises of another with intent to prevent or hinder their free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege so secured, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years, and so forth and so on. It is unclear how conspiracy against rights applies to Trump. Smith argued his indictment last year that Trump's attempt to have some electoral college votes overturned and sent back to the state legislatures was a conspiracy against the right to vote and to have one's vote counted. Boy, oh boy, you're going to have to put crime tape around the Capitol building and maybe even Washington, D.C., if that's a crime. But opposing sides in a contested election often seek to have controversial ballots set aside. Ask Gore. It's also difficult to see how the rest of the language of the statute applies. Ask Riskin. But in contrast, and here's the point, consider the pro-Palestinian encampments, a.k.a. the Hitler Youth, on the premises of another. They prevent students, faculty, and staff of universities from expressing their own dissenting views. They're interfering with the studies and safety of Jewish students. On Friday, former Harvard President Larry Summers argued that the encampments at Harvard violates the civil rights of Jewish students. A lawsuit against Northwestern University makes similar claims. Moreover, many of the Hitler Youth activists involved in the encampments and protests wear masks. Whether Kefiyeh's and K995 masks, familiar with the coronavirus pandemic, they do so to hide their identities. The language of the conspiracy against rights statute explicitly mentions persons who go in disguise. Why? Talking about the Klan. And of course, the Hitler Youth. Don't they remind you of the old Klan America that you've read about and you've seen with the face coverings and so forth? Maybe we should hand them the white hoods. Maybe we should hand them the white hoods. It says, finally, we know that there is a conspiracy across states and perhaps even internationally to back the activist New York Police Department's Tarek Shepard said so explicitly on Fox News yesterday. Thus, the pro-Palestinian encampments fit all the elements of the conspiracy against rights. They also mimic the actions of the Klan in inflaming black Americans. They use masks and inflammatory displays to scare Jews. Trump did nothing of the sort. Yet Attorney General Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division head Kristen Clark, herself once accused of anti-Semitism, have been silent on campus anti-Semitism while Jack Smith chases Trump. That is a brilliant point. A very, very important point. Now, as for the head of the Civil Rights Division, wrongly named, it's the Uncivil Rights Division, we have some breaking news on her. From Town Hall, Matt Vespa, top Biden administration official, that is, this very same Christine Clark, racist, segregationist, in my view, and I believe I can defend that easily, might be in hot water after new information reveals that she lied regarding any prior arrests since becoming an adult. Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark replied no during her confirmation hearing in 2021. New documents that the Daily Signal found showed that Clark was indeed arrested in 2006 in a domestic violence dispute. She had stabbed her husband, or then husband. Stabbed her then husband, Mr. Producer. Before becoming one of the Justice Department's top leaders, she was allegedly involved in a violent domestic dispute, according to court documents, records, and text messages. An incident that ended in her arrest was ultimately expunged during her Senate confirmation. She specifically denied ever having been arrested or accused of committing a violent act. Clark was nominated by President-elect Joe Biden, of course, on January 7, 2021, and later confirmed by the U.S. Senate to lead the Department of Justice so-called crown jewel, as former Attorney General Eric Holder, another lowlife, described the Civil Rights Division. Biden and Kamala Harris celebrated Clark as the first black woman, we don't believe in women, as the first black to head the Civil Rights Division, promising she would focus on fighting voter suppression and hate crimes across the country. During a confirmation, the great Senator Tom Cotton asked then nominee Clark, since becoming a legal adult, have you ever been arrested for or accused of committing a violent crime against any person? No, she replied. No, she said to Cotton, according to responses she submitted under oath to questions for the record from U.S. senators. Will she be prosecuted for perjury? Come on, somebody kidding? Messages as well as records obtained and authenticated by the Daily Signal indicate that Clark may have been less than forthcoming with this statement. Yeah, I'd say so. Clark's ex-husband, Reginald Avery, alleged to the American Accountability Foundation's Tom Jones in 2021 that Clark attacked him with a knife, deeply slicing his finger to the bone on the night of July 4, 2006. Well, at least it wasn't Juneteenth. While they were married and living in Maryland. I'm sure this will be a lead story on the Constipated News Network and MSLSD, Mr. Producer. I can see the headline now, hidden in the back of the pages like the Holocaust at the New York Slimes. I can see the Washington Compost all over this. Can't you? The View. The Yentas on The View. The moronic, idiotic Yentas on The View. I can hear them talking about this right now. Can't you, America? Domestic violence. Aren't we supposed to oppose that? I think we are. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Nowadays, $20 barely gets you a burger and fries, or maybe a quarter tank of gasoline. You know what it will get you, though? For just $20 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and plenty of 5G data from my cell phone company, Pure Talk. You'll get the same quality of service as AT&T, Verizon, or T-Mobile, but for half the cost. The average family saves almost $1,000 a year, all with no contracts and no activation fees. You can trade your phone or get great deals on the latest iPhones and Androids. Make the switch today and save an additional 50% off your first month. Choose a wireless company that shares our values, that supports our military and veterans, that creates American jobs, and refuses to advertise on fake news networks. Instead, they're right here with us. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and make the switch right now so you can actually afford that burger and fries. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Levin. More than 8 in 10 Americans don't trust corporate media to report facts. That's you, fake tapper. That's you, Wolf Blitzer. That's you, Angry Missile. That's all of you, jerks at CNN and MSNBC. All of you jerks at the Holocaust-denying New York Times. Right, Maggie Haberman? Actually, I like Haggie better. Right, Washington Compost? Overwhelming majorities of Americans, writes the Federalist, Tristan Justice, have lost their trust in the media to accurately report the news, according to a new poll. In a survey from the American Press Institute and the Associated Press Nork Center for Public Affairs Research, put that on your calling card. A whopping 83% of respondents said they were concerned the media would, quote, report inaccurate information or disinformation, unquote, in their 2024 election coverage. Well, they're right. The 83% are 100% correct. 81% said they are worried the media will report unverified information. 77% said they feared the media would not stick to the facts, but would be dishonest in their framing, only covering things favorable to their preferred candidates or detrimental to their opponents. I'm all choked up. 72% are worried media will rely on artificial intelligence. Now, what is artificial intelligence? I know technologically I know what it is, but isn't artificial intelligence also stupid people pretending they're smart, Mr. Producer? Yes. So I'd say the media is filled with artificial intelligence. So you hate the media. You know why you hate the media? Because they hate you. You distrust the media. Why do you distrust the media? Because they should be distrusted. Look at the conga line of miscreants and malcontents and reprobates that spew their stupidity, that use Hamas numbers, that pretend that Joe Biden is a serious person. He's seriously deranged. Look at how they treat Donald Trump. Look at how they treat you. Our brothers and sisters in Israel. Look at them. In fact, don't look at them. You're probably eating dinner and it'll upset your stomach. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Not too long now, we're going to have our buddy Sid Rosenberg on the program. Is my brother. We've come to really love each other, he and I, and I'm serious about that. Well, you know, not in the weird way. You don't understand. And he's a great guy. He's a bigwig, WABC in New York. Just a good man, and I know the country likes to hear from Sid. Unlike Bernie Sanders here. Bernie Sanders was on CNN again, Mr. Producer. Bernie Sanders is always on CNN. He's a Stalinist. I've given the history of this bastard. He has supported every genocidal regime. Then he backs up. Well, you know, that's not what I meant. He's a liar. And so this guy is a Stalinist. And he's on CNN all the time. Now, what does that tell you? Here he is on CNN yesterday. Cut 3, go.
So I think it's important to understand why these young people are out there, and they're out there for the right reasons.
Shut up, you a-hole, you pig, you creep. They're out there for the right reasons, Jew-hating. Mark, he's a Jew. No, he's not. He's a Marxist. They don't believe in religion. He's a pig. And we also know who's funding these people. I'm so tired of telling this. It's like the media. Who's funding them? Oh, well, we want to thank Bill, and we want to thank for giving us the information. Mr. How many times do I have to tell them who's funding this? It's so weird, is it not? It's on video. It's on audio. We've linked to the documents. What do you want to know? I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Who's it? Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders. Okay, look. Bernie Sanders has Biden's ear. Bernie Sanders supports the Hitler Youth. Bernie Sanders supports the Hitler Youth just as he supports the Stalinist Youth. Because Bernie Sanders hates America. Bernie Sanders is a Stalinist. I give you the whole history of this freak, this fraud, this phony. Now, Matt Miller is a weird dude over at the Department of State, the state of confusion, which is a rat's nest filled of Bernie Sanders types. Always has been, always will be, I'm afraid. Rat's nest. Listen to this clown. Cut 6, go.
Is the administration looking to admit into the United States refugees from Gaza? If so, how would the administration ensure there is no Hamas infiltration?
So,
by the way, why do all these freaks start with so? You notice that, Mr. Producer? Weren't you taught like in second grade when you were actually starting to learn English? Don't start so. So, the other freak, fraud, and phony does it too. The idiot who represents the idiot in the White House. Yeah, whatever. I don't really care. So, let me tell you. So as we've always said, so as we believe, so the president has been clear. So, go ahead.
We have helped more than 1,800 American citizens and their families leave Gaza, many of whom come to the United States.
Whoa. Since the beginning of the conflict, we've helped more than 1,800 American citizens and their families leave Gaza? What does that mean? What does that mean? American citizens and their family. What family? So, go ahead.
President Biden's direction, we have also helped and will continue to help some particularly vulnerable individuals, such as children with serious health problems and children who are...
Whoa, wait a minute. You know, there's children with serious health problems in Haiti. There's children with serious health problems all over the world. This is a subterfuge. You bring the children in, you got to bring the parents in. You make them citizens, they get to bring everybody in. And let me tell you something. These are big damn families. Big families. Uncle Muhammad. And going on and on and on. It goes on and on and on. These are big families. I'm being serious. Everybody knows it. Go ahead.
Treatment for cancer, get out of harm's way, and receive care at nearby hospitals in the region.
Isn't that swell? I wonder how many people in our country don't get this kind of care. I'm serious. Aren't you folks sick and tired of this? They act like what they're doing is righteous. They take your money and they give it to these bastards on these college campuses who are going to earn more than you do. Oh, it's so righteous. The border's wide open. Oh, how humanitarian is that? With the slavery and all the rest of it. Now we're going to import Palestinians from Gaza, Palestinians from Egypt, for God's sakes. The Egyptians don't want them. The Jordanians don't want them. But we're going to take them. You know what the Japanese government said? We're not. And you know what Biden said? Oh, you're xenophobic. Mr. Racist, Mr. Segregationist, Mr. Anti-Semite is calling other people names. No, they shouldn't come here because there's no serious vetting about their cultural upbringings. And you see what's already happening on our college campuses thanks to groups that are funded by the Hamas network. This is suicide. This is how nations die. This is how nations die. You know, let me put it this way. Joe Biden is the Jim Jones of presidents. Does that make sense, Mr. Producer? He's the Jim Jones of presidents. He expects all of us to take cyanide or whatever the hell they were given. I refuse. Go ahead.
And Palestinians...
Shut up, you POS. Shut the hell up. Now, all the tough guys in Congress. Oh, you know, we slipped $3.5 billion into this spending bill. Governor DeSantis brought this up last night, and I said, but they're already doing this. But we should still have a fight on the budget. Fine. But what are we doing about this right here, now? I want all the tough guys to figure it out and do something about it. What's Matt Gaetz doing about this? Just curious. What is MTG? I can never remember her full name. What is the name? Marjorie Taylor Greene. What is she doing about it? What's anybody doing about it? Nothing. Beating their chests. That's all they ever do. Beat their chests and pat themselves on the back. Oh, that's great. What are we going to do about this? They ought to shut down the Senate. They have the filibuster. Shut it down. Shut it down. You want to shut down the government? Now shut it down over this. Not funding Israel. Shut it down. Now. Will you join me, America? Will you join me? Go ahead.
Variety of existing...
Actually, shut up. I don't want to hear this clown anymore. Now, let's hear somebody who knows what he's talking about. Let's take a listen. President Trump, outside the courtroom. He mentioned me again today, Mr. Producer? Good. That drives them nuts. Cut 10, go.
If we had a fair trial, if we had a fair judge, I don't think he would have even allowed this trial to take place. Then I would go and read the newspaper stories today, the legal experts, because they've come out with scathing reports on this trial, scathing, that it shouldn't even be taking place. Read Greg Jarrett, read Andrew McCarthy, read Mark Levin, who's been so great. Read all of them. That's incredible. Dershowitz came out with a very strong article. Jonathan Turley has been very, very powerful. Just came out with another article. Just read them. I don't know these people for the most part. These are legal experts. And they say this trial is a disgrace.
Cut 11, go.
No, it won't stop me from testifying. The gag order is not to testify. The gag order stops me from talking about people and responding when they say things about me. We have people saying things about me, and I'm not allowed to respond. So this judge has taken away my constitutional right. And as the Republican candidate and somebody that's leading Biden by a lot, I should be able to respond. But this guy's got me with a gag order. Now we're filing, I think today, a constitutional motion to get this out. We'll be filing a lawsuit on the constitutionality of it. But if somebody says something about me and I'm not allowed to respond, that's never happened before.
This is so sick. And by the way, Robert De Niro, we got clips here. You're a punk. You think you're a tough guy? You're not a tough guy. I've confronted little bastards like you all my life. Robert De Niro, tough guy. They let their roles in the movies go to their head. In De Niro's case, there's not much of a head. What's that stupid thing on your face, too? Have you ever noticed that on his face, Mr. Producer? What's wrong? You don't have enough money to get it removed? Everybody, when they walk at you in the movies, they're staring at that weird thing on your face. You jerk! I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
My buddy Sid Rosenberg is, well, kind of the baby doc of WABC. Is that a good way to put it, Sid?
I like that. Okay. Good Shabbos. Happy Friday night, my friend Mark Levin. I love you. How are you?
You too, my brother. I want to ask you a big sports guy before we get into this other stuff. Your Knicks beat my Sixers, but my Sixers weren't going anywhere, and ultimately your Knicks probably aren't going anywhere either. Who's going to win? One of the Mark dumb questions. No,
it's not a dumb question. And look, the Knicks are having a great season. They were the number 2 seed. They beat the Sixers. Yeah. They are good enough to beat Indiana. But it does look like, Mark, the Celtics are the prohibitive favorite to win the East. Now, they're waiting on the winner of Cleveland-Orlando to find out who they play next. And the Cavaliers have a chance to wrap up that series tonight in 6. So, assuming it's Boston-Cleveland, they'll probably get Knicks-Boston in the Eastern Conference Championships. And that is a bit much for the Knicks. You see, Jim Dolan right now in New York is the king. Both of his tenants at Madison Square Garden are in the second round of the playoffs. The Knicks taking on Indiana, and the Rangers in the NHL taking on Carolina.
I just can ask you about them.
Yeah, the Knicks are not better than Boston, but even with teams like Carolina, Boston, Toronto, or Florida, the Rangers are the best team in the Eastern Conference.
They can win it all, though, couldn't they?
They can win it all. The Rangers can win the Stanley Cup. Most wins in the league this year, most points in the league this year, and they disposed of Washington in 4. They swept them. So, interesting. Knicks, Pacers second round, Rangers, Hurricanes second round. The lights are on, Mark Levin, at Madison Square Garden.
New York's having a good time, Sid.
Yeah.
It's been a while. By the way, how are your Yankees looking?
Well, I'm a Met fan, to be honest.
But you're a Met fan. I'm shocked, but that's okay. But how are the Yankees looking?
You know, the Yankees were looking okay, but there's one team, Mark, inside that division that most people think are better than the Yankees. It's not Toronto. It's not Boston. It's not Tampa Bay. It's Baltimore.
Baltimore is great.
They're great, and they just took 3 out of 4 from the Yankees over the last 4 days. So not a good sign that the one team the Yankees were worried about, the Baltimore Orioles, took 3 out of 4. Now the Yankees take on the Tigers this weekend. But the 3 losses to Baltimore make Yankee fans nervous.
By the way, like Baltimore turned it around in like 1 or 2 years. It's amazing. They were in the tank, and now all of a sudden they are a good team. And I'm going to tell you something, Sid. My family and I went to that Camden Yards about a month ago, and we watched them. They're fun to watch. That stadium is a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun to watch baseball in Baltimore. I got to be honest with you.
No, it is, and they're a young baseball team too. They're very, very young, and they're very, very good. Now, the problem with Camden Yards is, much like Yankee Stadium, when you go inside Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, Mark, it's majestic, it's beautiful, it's historical. If you get lost a couple of blocks, you're in big trouble. Same thing with Camden Yards. You get lost for 2 blocks, you're dead.
As long as they have hot dogs, I don't care. I'll survive. Sid, my brother, I want to ask you some questions here. It looks like Biden's bringing some Palestinians in from Gaza. It's as if this guy looks at every reason to try and destroy America, the citizenship in America, to undermine our country, open borders, on and on and on. Have you ever seen insanity like this before?
I haven't, and I turned 57 2 weeks ago, and I thought Jimmy Carter was far and away the worst president of my lifetime. I wasn't around during the Civil War. I can't speak on that president. But this guy has gone so past Jimmy Carter. And look, there are still people, Mark, there are still people, Democrats, liberals, my own relatives, who tell me Joe Biden is pro-Israel. What is wrong with him? He's been doing business with Iran in 2 administrations. He stabs Bibi Netanyahu in the back at every opportunity. He wants to bring Palestinians who nobody else wants. Egypt doesn't want him. Jordan doesn't want him. Nobody wants him. You know why, Mark? Because in a recent poll, 74% of Palestinians actually liked what Hamas did on October the 7th. In another recent poll, 90% of Hamas, we find out, votes for Hamas every single time. Nobody wants these people. Only Joe Biden. You know why? Because he wants to destroy America, and he couldn't care less about the Jewish people.
And yet you have relatives. I know people, Democrats. I was at an event. My wife was there speaking. Alan West was there in Florida about anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. And my wife brought up the fact that Joe Biden is like the most anti-Israel president in our lifetimes. And a group of about 530 of them got up and walked out. And then they started reporting the organization to the college and wanted them thrown out. What's wrong with these people? Are they nuts? I think they're nuts.
Well, it's twofold. They are nuts, and they hate Trump. You know, I'm one of those guys at this point, Mark Levin, who really believes that almost every Democrat decision is based on Donald Trump. In other words, if Donald Trump did something well, Joe Biden wants to unravel that. If people like Donald Trump, the people that don't like him hate his guts. And it's gotten to the point where everything going wrong in this country is a direct shot at President Trump. I really believe that's the case. We talked about Trump derangement syndrome for years. Mark, it's real. It's a cancer. It's eating up this country. Look what Joe Biden's done with the border. That man, Donald Trump, had that border locked down for 4 years. 4 years. I did a morning show with Bernard, God rest his soul. I never mentioned the word migrant once. Not once in New York City. I can't get past the show these days without saying illegals 4 or 5 times. It's all about Trump. If Trump did it well, Biden wants to unravel it, including Israel.
By the way, who would you like to see, or which candidates would you like to see as potential running mates for Trump? Have you thought about that?
Well, the story that just came out, I don't buy because, you know,
I agree with
Marco Rubio, that ain't happening. He lives in
That's
Florida.
not happening.
Right. He lives in Florida. It's not happening. So I know the names that came out yesterday were Rubio and Burgum and Tim Scott. I'd like to see Ron DeSantis and what happened. He's in Florida. But give me Elise Stefanik. I can live with that.
Yeah, she's good. Elise Stefanik. I agree with that. Hang in there, Sid. Don't hang up. We're going to come back with my man, Sid Rosenberg, WABC in New York. He's the big mahaf, as we say. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
I'm here with brother Sid Rosenberg, who is a dear, dear friend. I think we've become extremely close, actually. And he's the heavy-duty man at WABC, the biggest talk station in America. And for good reason. He's really great. Sid, I want to play you something, and then I want to get your reaction, okay?
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
Cut 13. Go.
What do you say to those who say, I don't like the guy, but I'm going to vote for him? What's your message to them?
I don't understand it. I don't think they understand how dangerous it will be if he ever, God forbid, becomes president. I don't think they really understand. And historically, from what I see, even in Nazi Germany, they had it with Hitler. They don't take him serious. He looks like a clown, acts like a clown. Mussolini, same thing. These guys, I don't know why, they look like clowns. They somehow, people, that element of society identifies in some ways with them, but it would be chaos beyond our imagination. There's no mystery about him. He's right out front, and what he says is what it'll be if he becomes president.
Isn't this guy a sick bastard who never shuts his big pie hole?
Yeah, you just said it perfectly. He's a sick bastard. He's stupid. Don't get me wrong. I loved Taxi. I loved Goodfellas, and I loved Casino. And when he's
a good actor.
Boxer, he's a good actor.
But he's a lousy human being.
You know, I'll tell you something, Mark. Last Monday, I went to Columbia, and I was there first, the day of Passover. And I was there with a couple of really good House Republicans, Anthony D'Esposito out of Long Island, Mike Lawler out of Rockland County, a Nassau County executive by the name of Bruce Blakeman, and an actor named Michael Rappaport. And Mike used to say the same things De Niro said. Now, Mike, on my own show a couple of days ago, I said, Mike, is Donald Trump a possibility? He said, Sid, 100%. He has said horrible things about Donald Trump in the past. But he sees what's going on in New York. He sees what's going on in Los Angeles. He's a proud Jew like you and I. He's been back to Israel 6 times since October the 7th. And all of a sudden, for a guy like Michael Rappaport, Donald Trump is a real possibility, if not a probability. For a moron like Bobby De Niro, who cares?
The guy's a psycho. Honest to God, he's a psycho. You know, you see that movie Cape Fear? I hated that movie. I just had heart surgery. My wife takes me. I said, she wants to see a movie. I go, what the hell is this? What the hell? This movie? I'm going to have another heart attack. Well, he seems like he's never actually come out of that role. I mean, to say stuff like this about comparing him to Hitler when he's the biggest friend Israel's ever had in the Oval Office, I mean, you have to be pretty psychotic, pretty demented, don't you?
Psychotic and stupid. And, I want to go back to the Columbia statement for a second because I know that people around the country, a couple of days ago, Mark, wanted to give the mayor here, Eric Adams, some credit. He said all the right things.
Yeah, you got mad at me because I basically said I like what he said. Don't do that! Anyway, go ahead.
Don't do that. And I'll tell you why you shouldn't do that, Mark, because let me ask you this.
I'm not a fan of his. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, I know you're not. But for folks out there that want to give him the benefit of the doubt after what he said, first of all, I was there at Columbia. It was a day of Passover. You know where Eric Adams was? In Miami. He was nowhere near the university. But let me ask you this.
Maybe he was celebrating Passover in Miami. You never know. Anyway,
let's swap out.
That's your old stomping ground, isn't it? Now that I'm sitting here thinking about it. Yes.
Yes. I used to live in Boca Raton for 16 years.
Nice
but
place.
Let's swap out for a second, if you will, Mark Levin,
Yeah.
these pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian scumbags. Let's swap them out, okay? They're off the campus, and tomorrow it's the Ku Klux Klan. And the Ku Klux Klan is on the lawn at Columbia University saying they're going to kill all the blacks. Do you think that Eric Adams would have waited 13 days for the university to call him? No way. So that's my point. Don't give me that nonsense. If it was blacks they wanted to kill, if it was gays they wanted to kill, Eric Adams would have been there in 15 minutes. But because it was Jews, he waited 13 days. So who gives a rat's ass what he said 2 days ago?
That's very true. You miss Bernie, don't you? I miss Bernie a lot. Don't you miss Bernie?
Oh, yeah. You know, it's funny. I miss him almost more off the air because we were so friendly. We were coming early in the morning, Mark, and if I had an issue at home or when my father died, for example, I didn't handle that well. I still don't handle it well. He was there for me for so many life moments. So he was a great partner, and he was a talented guy, and the show did very well. But to be honest, I miss him almost more off the air because he was what we call in Jewish a gittin a shimmer. That means a good soul. He was a good man. So I miss him on the air. I miss him off the air. We lost a really good person. We really did.
And we love you, buddy. We really do. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Relax a little bit. Monday will be here before you know it.
Yeah, I get to watch the Rangers on Sunday. But let me just say this on the way out, that if you would have said to me a year ago, Mark Levin wanted to be on his radio show, I would have said, you are nuts. So I just want you to know this as you go for your weekend with your two great TV shows on Fox News tomorrow and Sunday, that when you bring me on, for me, it is the ultimate honor. I love you so much. Thank you so much. You're
very kind, brother. You're very kind, and we got to bring you on more. You take care of yourself, Sid. God bless you, brother.
You too. Thank you, Mark. You're the best. You're the best.
You too. I really love that guy. I really do, Mr. Producer. He's just fantastic. AOC is a Marxist. She's an Islamist, former bartender, and a low IQ moron. I'm going to prove it to you. Cut 16, Mr. Producer. Go.
There is a psychic weight to living in communities that are designed to be disconnected. It affects your social life. My neighborhood that I'm from in the Bronx and Parkchester, we have some of the longest commutes in all of New York City. It is a commute not just to work. It is a commute to do anything. It is a commute to connect socially. It is a commute to connect spiritually. These decisions are designed to disconnect, disempower, and isolate people. And when you layer that with a lot of Robert Moses's racist intent, to very much do so to a very specific kind of people, Black, brown, low income, poor, etc. You can really see how it actually...
All right, shut up, idiot. Now let me explain. I know who that guy is. If you read American Marxism, you know who all these people are. This is this preposterous ideology that when you really look at where the train tracks were laid, where the bridges were built, where the utilities are headquartered and all the rest, you can see that they were purposely put in the communities of black people and brown people over the course of many, many decades in these older neighborhoods. And you have these overpass bridges in black neighborhoods and brown neighborhoods and so forth. And there's one problem with all this. What's the problem, Mr. Producer? Most of these things were built when these communities were Italian, Irish, German, Jewish, yes, black too. But they weren't of the demographics that they are today. You look at many of the bridges and tunnels and the rest that are built in and around New York City. They were built a long, long time ago. So they weren't put there to discriminate against anybody. They weren't put there to discriminate against black people. They were actually put there because the technology, the understanding at the time was to get people from one place to another, not to make life more difficult for them. But when you're a crackpot and all you ever see is racism, when you have the mind of a chipmunk, that's where you come to, this AOC. That's why she's on Meet the Press and Face the Nation, because she's another idiot. These things were not put there to discriminate against anybody. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Okay, folks, don't forget this weekend, Saturday, by my calculation, that's tomorrow, a killer Life, Liberty, and Levin. I have Leo Terrell and Victor Davis Hanson. And really a spectacular opening statement. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, just like Saturday, 5 p.m. Pacific, we have Congressman Mike Waltz, who's fantastic. and Alan Dershowitz, who's on fire. And again, a fantastic opening statement. I try to make these opening statements absolutely compelling for you. Now, many of you are going to be watching hockey or basketball or whatever it is. I want you to do yourself a favor and me a favor. Let's do a Levin surge of sorts. When the program's over, which it's over soon, set your DVR for tomorrow, Saturday, whatever time my program appears in your community, 8 p.m. Eastern as a starter. Set it for Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, again for a starter, depending on what time it is in your community. I don't want you to miss these programs. This is my effort to have an impact in November, my effort to get the word out, and then you get the word out as the Thomas Paines and Paul Revere's. I'm on a mission. I don't need to do TV. I don't need to do any of this stuff. I do it because I want to do it for you, to get you the information, so you can go out there and help save the country. So please, if you will, go ahead and set your DVR right now for Saturday and Sunday. We go to America every Friday in honor of you. Here we go. Gentlemen, the week is officially over. The weekend begins right now. Don't forget, Saturday and Sunday, Life, Liberty, and Levin on Fox, 8 p.m. Eastern. Set your DVRs, folks. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, freedom fighters in Ukraine, and our brothers and sisters in Israel. Good night, Spritey and Griffey and Pepsi. Good night, Zelda, Smokey, and Gigi. Good night, Indy. Good night, Patton. Good night, Rory and Marty and Barney. We love you and miss you. Good night, Dad. Good night, Mom. Good night, Leo. Good night, Joe. And good night to the rest of the family who are in heaven. And ladies and gentlemen, I will see you Saturday and Sunday. Have a great weekend. God bless each and every one of you.